Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Slippery Steve Barber, and joining me as my co-host is Delicious Dwaylen Davis.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, I come up with a new one. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna come up with a new one every single week. And today is actually kind of, I don't want to say it's an off day, but we actually were not supposed to be recording today.
Yeah.
Because I had a commitment that was supposed to be all weekend and then tonight. However, when I showed up for the first day at 8 o'clock in the morning after having to get up at 5:30 in the morning on Saturday and driving almost an hour to where I had to go, and I get there and I'm like, oh, it's been rescheduled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what do you mean it's been rescheduled? When were you going to tell me it's been rescheduled?
Right. And why didn't you tell me before I drove an hour?
Yeah. And they said, oh, it's been rescheduled next weekend. I said, I can't do next weekend because, we had something going on, which ironically enough, after I got back home, actually the thing that I had going on is actually next Monday, which is the reason I couldn't do that entire weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But they said, oh, you could do the Saturday and Sunday, and then the Monday portion you could just do some other time. I'm like, because of what we're doing, I'd rather just knock it all. I
Knock
don't
it
want
all out
to.
at once.
Yeah, I don't want to kill the momentum of it. And then I got home. I have a family situation going on down in North Carolina, and I told
Mm-hmm.
you about it. And kind of a long story short, we're getting a dog. So we're getting a Chiweenie that is we're going to meet up with my cousin in Beckley, West Virginia, because that's about the halfway point between us and Aberdeen, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I think they might live in. I think they live in Carthage, or they may even live in Cameron, home of
Parties.
That's right. So that's what got this going on. So now we're here. So I texted Dwayne and I said, by the way, I can do a show tonight. Oh, okay, cool. What we're going to talk about? And it's like,
Yeah.
because we were not planning on doing anything tonight. So
Right.
we are going to hit on some kind of current news. I mean,
Yeah.
these are good enough stories we can talk about them.
Yeah.
Because I think they're pretty big. First thing, talk about Jeff Jarrett is no longer the person in charge of live events for the WWE.
Yep.
He stepped down. And then not long after, we found out that he has a replacement, Road Dogg Jesse James.
Yep. And I'm hearing varying reports. Some are saying that Jeff Jarrett stepped down. Some are saying that he was let go. So I haven't seen a confirmation of exactly what happened. I just know he's gone.
Either way, Double J is being replaced by the real Double J.
Yeah. Yep.
That's kind
exactly.
And I want to hear them start singing "Spend My Days Working Hard" on that song. But yeah, and I think that's pretty interesting. And the other news, we can kind of hit on kind of a big story was Kenny Omega has returned to AEW.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of stuff going on in AEW that we've been kind of not mentioning as much, and it's not because it's not newsworthy. It's just because obviously what was happening in WWE was being reported in like regular news outlets, not just wrestling or sports outlets.
Right.
Although I did see an article because when I was Googling Kenny Omega return, apparently it actually popped up. One of the things that popped up was a Fox News article saying he'd returned, and I was like, really? Oh, wow. Okay. I wouldn't expect,
Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to report on, AEW since they have that, they have a relationship with WWE.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because they've reported on Ric Flair's last match. Of course, that was huge news.
Yeah.
When Ric Flair was in the hospital, he almost died a few years ago. That was really big news.
Mm-hmm.
But Kenny Omega returning, and now wrestling fans, yes, we're all about, Kenny Omega's back.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect like the casual person who just knows what wrestling is, especially, it's a not WWE, like you said.
Yeah.
And they have that kind of relationship.
Well, SmackDown is on,
Fox Sports.
It's on Fox, and then whenever it gets preempted for something on Fox, it gets shown on Fox Sports 1. So,
yep.
I don't
Uh,
know. Weird.
I don't know. The WWE kind of seems like, the NFL, on a Sunday, you can catch it on two different networks,
Yeah.
so you have an NBC run network and you have a Fox run
Mhm.
network. So that's kind of an odd one.
The remember how we were talking about, CM Punk came back,
Hmm.
him and Moxley are supposed to have the unification match um for the AEW world title. Well, they were originally everybody thought that was going to be at All Out, but they changed it and it's going to be this Wednesday on Dynamite. Now, I'm
Mm,
wondering if there's not going to be some shenanigans and either someone gets added to the match or the match ends in a DQ or whatever, and then they add some sort of stipulation to the championship match at All Out. But it's just kind of weird that they're doing a championship unification match. Okay, they've done it before with the TNT title
right.
with Cody and um, with Cody and Sammy Guevara, which was an amazing match. That was Cody's last match in AEW. But this is the world title. You've got the interim champion in Moxley and you know, the recognized champion in Punk. And, you know, these are two huge stars. You think that they'd save that for the pay per view unless they have something interesting in mind for Dynamite. I'm curious to see how they pull this off because I hope they're not trying to go the WCW route and let's have this on free TV to pop a huge rating.
Right. That was exactly what I was thinking too. I was like, I hope because, okay, yeah, you're popping a huge rating.
Yeah.
However, ratings will get you commercial sponsorship, but it's not going to get you
Yeah.
people to pay for the events
Right. Ratings
necessarily.
ratings will get you a big money TV deal. But again, like you said, it's not going to is is giving it away on free TV going to make people still buy All Out. And there'll be people that will buy All Out. But
Right.
with that match as the main event of All Out, that would have pushed more people to
Hmm.
buy that pay-per-view. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to work, what they're going to do on Wednesday, as far as if they're actually going to go through with a standard match and have the titles unified, or is there going to be outside interference or what?
And we will discuss all that after I give all of our contact listening info. If you like to email us at armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on Instagram at armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on Twitter at bookingarmchair. You can find us on TikTok at armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on YouTube for the video portion. As far as I know, we're nowhere else as far as videos, unless there's some kind of third party. And audio platforms, you can find us just about any kind of audio platform there is. If we're not there, let one of us know, let both of us know, let somebody know, and we'll do what we can to get ourselves added.
Yep.
You can also find our merch at tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. You can find Dwaylen on Twitter at fat_daddy73. You can find his other social media as far as videos go on YouTube and TikTok at Big and Fat. You can find my other podcast, the Cubicle Chat. You can find it on Twitter at cubicle_chat and also on Facebook, just the Cubicle Chat. And just do a search on any kind of podcast platform. Also, the same ones you can find this podcast on, you can find that one on
Yep.
because I run everything through Spreaker. Which, by the way, if you're looking to do a podcast, Spreaker is absolutely the way to go. I mean, I've seen some of the other ones and the way they work. We actually were used to use another one, and they're kind of shutting down anyway. They actually said go to Spreaker, which so they
Oh
were actually,
wow.
yes, kind of sister companies, but
Yeah.
the other one was charging twice as much,
Oh wow.
given so Spreaker's charging half as much but given twice the capability.
Right.
Yeah, so um because I have another friend, she's actually starting her own podcast and she's going through another platform.
Mm-hmm.
And she had already started, even though I said, okay, here's what I use a Spreaker, and I showed her everything they distribute to. Well, she went another route, and I asked her, I was actually on her podcast the other night, her very first episode. And I asked her, "Hey, after the fact, do they distribute? Do you know how to do that where it goes to other, platforms?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know." Yeah, I was like, "Well, find your RSS feed." I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
she's pretty computer knowledgeable, so I'm pretty sure she can find it. But I'm like, try to find that because if you're only on one platform, it's going to be hard to get your stuff out there. But I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know if she's interested in monetizing those. So, um,
she may not be. She may just want to do it just for the enjoyment of doing it. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, because she's actually been on 2 episodes of the Cubicle Chat now, and so and that actually inspired her to start her own. So she had me as her very first guest, and I'm like, all right, cool. Um, but I mean, there's a learning curve, just like I mean, there was a learning
mm-hmm.
curve for us. I mean,
Yep,
we're still discovering things.
yep,
We're always looking for ways to improve. But if you can think of ways to improve, definitely, send us on those emails. And if you use Apple Podcasts or if you use Spotify, you can always give us a rating. On Apple Podcasts, you can also give us a review. Please give us reviews. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We are trying to get up to about 100, at least 100 subscribers. So that way we can change the URL to an actual URL instead of just the
the
letters that,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, pretty sure you have the same issue in yours.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep,
So, and while we're talking about podcasts, go listen to The Hill of Truth, another excellent episode today, uh, talking about booing baby faces. And he had Bobby from Botch Spots and Chair Shots. He was on there. Excellent episode. And I'd like to get Ted back on our show because we're talking about
mm-hmm.
Ted. And we always got to talk about Ted because Ted is the absolute man. And we need to try to get Bobby on here from
Yeah.
Botch Shot because that dude, I don't know if you heard, I mean, it was a great show because you can tell, he's actually been in the business,
Oh, okay.
so he can kind of give that insight as well. Um, but and listen to Wrestling with the Truth, another good podcast out of
Mm-hmm.
Nova Scotia. And who are some of the other ones? Oh, non wrestling, bless their hearts, True Crime Cast, because True Crime Cast gave us a shout out the other day
Yeah.
on
Yes,
Twitter.
they did.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jamie and John, for that. Because somebody was asking, "Hey, what's a good wrestling podcast?" And he went, we were the only one he mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that. I'm pretty sure it's usually Jamie who posts under that name. John does stuff under the Bless Their Hearts on their Twitter. So
Okay.
either way, both good podcasts. So have I gotten everything?
I believe so.
Okay, so I watch. I mean, right before I go to bed, and I think it's crap, I forgot to mention this. So, all right. So the first news story, and you texted me this, and Jeff Jarrett is no longer the
Yep.
person in charge of the.
Yeah, he was vice president in charge of live events for
Yep,
WWE.
which is actually
Um,
a pretty, I would imagine, pretty involved position.
oh yeah, yeah. Because he was there as a backstage producer, and then he ended up getting let go, and then they ended up bringing him back and putting him in charge of the live events. Um, which I still find it funny that Vince brought Jeff Jarrett back in, considering
I know,
their history.
but
Anybody that doesn't know the history, quick recap: Jeff Jarrett was leaving. Um, his contract had ended before No Mercy, 1999. He was scheduled to defend the Intercontinental title against China, but he was asking for, I think it was $300,000. Um, the way WWE spun it at the time is that he was trying to hold them up for $300,000. No, his contract was up. He was doing them a favor by competing in the match under no contract, so he could drop the title to China. The $300,000 was the money he would have been owed from live events, merchandise
yeah,
sales,
they
and
owed
all
it. They
that.
owed him that money.
They
That was
owed
back
him that
pay,
money.
basically.
Yeah, he just wanted his money before he left the company because he figured if he left before he got it, he'd never get it.
Right.
So I don't blame him. Run me my money. Give
Yes.
You owe me 300,000. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna need my money. So when Vince bought WCW, he made it a point, because Vince is just super petty, made it a point to basically, you know, embarrass Jeff Jarrett on worldwide television.
That
And
day, yeah,
that day,
the simulcast.
yeah, during the simulcast, as Vince is taking over WCW, he's making sure to tell Jeff Jarrett on worldwide television that he's fired.
Yep, because he said double G, double O, double N, double
Yeah,
E, gone. You're
yeah,
fired, pal.
yeah.
And at first, when he did that, honestly, I thought, okay, he's just messing with him, joking. And then to
Mhm.
find out later on, no, that was his way of
That was his way of
his
getting
with
Jarrett
firing him.
back. And the thing is, it's like Jarrett didn't do anything wrong. He asked for money that was owed to him.
Hmm.
He after he did as he's doing the company a favor, working without a contract to, put somebody over on his way out the door.
Yeah,
So
and a lot of guys did not like putting China over.
no, they didn't.
Yeah,
And
Jarrett didn't have a problem with it. Chris
nope,
Jericho didn't have a problem with it.
nope.
Um,
Mark Henry had no issue,
yeah,
working with China or putting her over, but a lot of guys did. And Jeff was, I think I felt that he was being pretty professional.
yeah.
You know, worked without a contract, put China over to drop the belt on his way out. He simply just wanted to be paid what he was owed. I don't see
Hmm.
anything wrong with that. Of course, Jeff and his father end up creating TNA wrestling. So I'm sure Vince wasn't happy about that, because Vince thought that he had controlled the market, and then here's another wrestling company popping up. Um, but I feel like this, with Jeff Jarrett out and Road Dogg back in, I feel like, and I've seen reports of this, that Triple H is trying to get the people back that were in his inner circle when he was running NXT, especially when NXT was at its hottest. And he's getting those people back into WWE. So Road Dogg is taking Jeff Jarrett's place as the vice president of live events. Like I told Steve before the show, Road Dogg's an excellent hype man, so he knows how to get
Hmm.
the crowd. He knows what it takes to get crowd involvement and draw people in and things like that. So I think it's a good position for him. Um, I will give WWE credit. Uh, they've got me watching Raw and SmackDown again, which wasn't a thing for years, but I've actually been watching them since
Yeah.
Triple H has taken over. And I mean, everything's not perfect, and nobody should expect it to just be go from here's the Vince McMahon WWE to here's the Triple H
Hmm.
WWE, but it has gotten better. The shows are more coherent, and there's more, like, even the continuity is getting better.
And there's more wrestling.
And there's a lot more wrestling. There's a lot
Yes.
more focus on women's wrestling.
Hmm.
Stars that Vince McMahon didn't see any value in are getting pushed, namely my favorite female wrestler in the world, Shayna Baszler. Went from an afterthought with Vince McMahon because he didn't, for
He didn't
some
get it.
reason, he didn't get it. He didn't get her gimmick. It's like there's no gimmick. He does. Um, but now she gets a SmackDown Women's Title match at uh in Cardiff at Clash of the Castle, and they've made her look like a killer again. So
Shayna Baszler looks like a killer.
yes, and I still say, I know I'm getting off on a tangent for just a second. I still need her to beat Liv Morgan for the title, so we can get Ronda Rousey, so we can get Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey,
Which
so we can
could
get that.
very easily turn into a shoot fight.
Yep.
You could. I mean, because I think Shayna Baszler, she'd walk up to you and demand your lunch money, your car keys, and a back rub.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she'd get them.
I mean, and the thing
You
is,
know.
it's like, not only is she a trained MMA fighter, but she is a submission specialist.
Yes. I mean, she's legit and she's the real deal, not somebody you'd want to mess around
Yeah.
with.
But we'll see how things go with the live events and stuff. I'm sure it'll go well because I'm sure Road Dogg knows. I feel like he knows what he's doing, and I don't think Triple H would have brought him back in if he didn't have a proven track record before because he worked in NXT when NXT was at its hottest. He was in Triple H's inner circle in NXT. Also, Shawn Michaels is now vice president for talent development.
Okay.
So D-Generation X has taken over WWE.
Which is pretty wild.
It's pretty funny.
Um,
I saw that on Twitter and it showed them back in like 97 where there's like sitting there just
yeah.
being goofballs eating bananas. And it said, just think, DX has taken over WWE.
And another thing about Road Dogg Jesse James is, and a lot of people don't even realize this because he doesn't go by his his old ring name.
Mm-hmm.
He's an Armstrong.
Yep.
He's second generation. And I'm actually going to look up their real name is not actually Armstrong. I just not thought of that.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what the real family name is, but yeah, I mean, his dad was Bullet Bob. He's got,
Oh, James. Their last name is James.
Oh, okay.
Jesse James. So, his name is Brian Gerard
Right.
James.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, their last name they always went by the Armstrongs. Brian Armstrong, Brad Armstrong, Scott Armstrong, Steve Armstrong.
Yeah.
The dad. Oh my lord,
Bob.
Bullet Bob.
Yeah.
A great wrestling family, and
Scott's refereeing in TNA now.
Oh,
he left WWE and he's over in Impact now.
Yeah. So and their dad was a famous wrestler, and he was a promoter down around the Pensacola area. Because I want to say Road Dogg. I mean, I think he's actually listed as being from Pensacola. And so he understands it for just like Jeff Jarrett. I mean, his dad was more famous. I don't think Jerry Jarrett ever wrestled. He only promoted.
No, I think he was just a promoter. I don't recall him ever wrestling.
And so Road Dogg, and of course Road Dogg, I think he has the respect of everybody. Also, I mean, and he's had a couple legal troubles too, like trying to go across the Canadian border with a whole bunch of weed in a suitcase. That didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
So
people need to learn. You're not taking anything across the Canadian border. They're not having it. They're just not.
No, they're not. Including apparently, a female wrestler was supposed to be on SmackDown or maybe Raw last week when they were
Nikita Lyons.
Yeah, because the rumor was because she wasn't vaxxed, they weren't let her. She's actually addressed that. I haven't actually seen what she said, but she said that's actually not the reason.
Yeah, I haven't either. Yeah, but she says that's not the reason why. The Usos were not on SmackDown this past week. Of course, they both have previous DUIs.
Multiple.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
And with Canada, that is a no. You can have a single DUI. They're like, well, sorry.
Yeah,
you're not getting in.
Yep. So, but I think Road Dogg. I mean, I think he'll do good.
Yeah,
especially. I mean, he's already has a good relationship with Triple H. He always has a good relationship with, Shawn Michaels. He has a good relationship with everybody. I think Jeff Jarrett probably did get along with everybody, but at the same time, I don't want to say he'd be considered an outsider in a way, but
I think he would. I think that because they're trying their best to, I wouldn't say erase Vince McMahon, but I think they're trying to do away with the old ways, so to speak, of doing business.
Right.
And Jeff was one of those Vince McMahon guys. I'm honestly surprised that Kevin Dunn is sticking around. From what I've seen, Kevin Dunn, as of right now, there's no plans to release Kevin Dunn, which I'm very surprised. But maybe they look at it like, well, Vince is gone, so now we just rein him in some.
I think I told you. I don't think I said this on air yet, but I'll go ahead and say it now. He's kind of like the guy in Demolition Man.
The assistant.
Bob. Yeah, the assistant.
Bob. Yeah.
I couldn't remember his name in Demolition Man.
Bob.
Because after the older guy was killed by Wesley Snipes,
Yes.
Or actually, he had somebody because he couldn't do it. He was
Yeah.
programmed not to do it.
Yeah. So he had Jesse Ventura's
Was it
character.
Jesse Ventura?
It was Jesse Ventura.
Even
He had
better.
Jesse Ventura's character um, kill the guy that ran the whole city,
Yeah.
and then after that was over, he ended up going with Dennis Leary's character,
Yeah.
who had been terrorizing the city the whole time. And
Yeah. And he's like, okay, first of all, we're gonna get you a change of clothes, and then
yeah,
of course, one of the best parts of the movie, we're gonna have dinner tonight at Taco Bell.
at Taco Bell. Taco Bell's looking like a 5-star restaurant. It's
Yeah.
like, huh?
It's like, well, they had restaurant wars. They're the only ones who survived. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Either way, good movie. Go check it out if you haven't
Oh,
already.
I love that movie.
Wesley Snipes is awesome in that movie.
Yes.
but um, but anyway, before we get to talk about Wesley Snipes movies, because that's something else I think we could both go. Oh, Wesley Snipes. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so that's what Kevin Dunn. That's what his role may be, as the assistant to whoever's in charge.
Could be.
Yeah, and
I don't feel like Kevin Dunn. I mean, he's a lot of things, but dumb is not one of them.
no,
And it's like, what am I going to do if I don't work for WWE? Because he's got enough of a reputation and not the best reputation that I
right.
don't see another wrestling company like, oh, we've got to bring in Kevin Dunn. And it's like, no, you can keep your shaky cam over there.
Yes, there's now that's one thing they're still doing is the shaky
They're
cam.
still doing that, and I'm hoping that that's just. I know it's going to take time to, fix a lot of the issues, but I'm hoping they rein that in before too long because it's just really unnecessary. It makes it look really cartoony.
Yes, and and be honest with you, I think if somebody had kind of like bad epilepsy,
Yeah.
I mean, it could.
Yeah.
I mean that in all seriousness.
Oh yeah,
You know,
definitely.
uh, but we'll see. I mean, now you can never have him working with somebody like Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
So of course, Cornette's really not involved with an actual promotion.
Nope. He's just doing no because the last promotion he was directly involved in, he was doing commentary for the NWA. Said some stuff on air that he shouldn't have said.
Yeah.
And Billy Corgan's like, nah, you gotta go.
He said some stuff that 30 years ago.
Yeah. And
But
Jim Cornette looks at it like, I feel like Jim Cornette looks at it like, well, this worked in the 80s. Yeah, that did work in the 80s. People didn't know as much about things as they did do now in 2022. And there's just things you can't say. There's things you shouldn't say. There's things you shouldn't say on a television program. I mean, there's just.
And, he was like, I was just trying to draw heat because if you know anything about Jim Cornette, Jim Cornette is not, he's not the character he was trying to portray. And
did you see her pop in?
Uh-oh. Woo.
It's like, oh, he's on the podcast. I gotta go.
Yeah. But Cornette, he should have still known you can't say things like what he said.
You can't say things like that, especially in this day and age. You just can't. And no wrestling promotion is going to look the other way on that because there's too much, fans aren't going to like it, sponsors aren't going to like it, nobody's going to burn a bridge for Jim Cornette these days.
Right.
Just not. For him to be able to say stuff that he was able to say 30 years ago just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just doing his podcast now, as far as I know. I'm sure he probably goes to like bigger fan conventions and things like that.
As long as he doesn't have to fly.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's the thing, because and if you ever just want to pick somebody's mind as far as wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. If he could, I feel like if he could just have an objective attitude about the product today, he is just a endless stream of wrestling knowledge. He's one of those. He's forgotten more about professional wrestling than a lot of people will ever learn.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I mean, he's run his own promotion, been a manager, you know, managed successful tag teams. He has a brilliant mind for tag team wrestling. Um, and I just wish he would be. I wish he would just give today's wrestling more of a chance. I just feel like he's kind of stuck in that. Well, this is what worked in my day, so why can't they do this now? It's like, well, wrestling's evolved in the last 30 plus years,
Yep.
and things that worked back then aren't going to get over today.
I mean, because if you think about the type of roles that you have in a wrestling, but like the visible roles that you always think of,
Mm-hmm.
he's wrestled.
Yeah.
Obviously he's more known as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's done commentary.
He's been on the booking. He's been on the booking committee.
Yes, he's been a trainer.
Yeah.
Because he was running OVW.
Mm-hmm.
So he was helping train them. Now he wasn't the one in the ring training them.
Right.
I mean, he left that to I think it was Rip Rogers and Danny Davis, Nightmare Danny
Right.
Davis. And there's some others. Al Snow is down there now, but of course Jim Cornette's not part of OVW.
Right.
But he's been part of all that. So yeah, so he would definitely be a person who would know how to run the business. But like you said, he still wants to run it in a way that it's wild because you hear him, he'll start getting mad at, back in the day, you couldn't talk about these things. So I don't think it ought to be like that. And I'm thinking, Jim, if they still did that, you wouldn't be as famous as what you are now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And he's another one. All right, Jim, that's great. Wrestling. You start talking politics, that's what I'm out.
Yeah.
And he's had a lot of complaints about that. But Jim Cornette, he actually does not care. I mean,
no, he doesn't care.
Yeah,
he's like I mean, and he's grown his podcast to where
he has two of them.
Yeah,
he has two of them.
Yeah, because he's got the standard one and he's got the drive-through.
Yeah,
and both of them, it's like he's pretty much like, they're my podcast. If you don't want to, if you don't like what I have to say, you don't have to listen. But
now I did go to seek out what he had to say about Laurinaitis getting fired because he's been very, very open about his relationship with Clown Shoes John Laurinaitis.
Yes, and his disdain for John Laurinaitis.
And how John Laurinaitis, he said, was he hates Kevin. No, not Kevin Dunn. Well, he hates Kevin Dunn too, but Vince Russo is the one he absolutely despises.
He despises Vince Russo.
Yeah, and he's not afraid to, come out there and say it either. Now him getting into a verbal altercation, a real one with Santo Morella.
Yeah.
Probably not the best idea.
No,
because and that's like he's better be glad that Santino, I said Santo, Santino didn't, or whatever his real name is, didn't lay him out, because if you look at his background, he has a legitimate fighting background.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was one of those things that, Jim Cornette slapped him, and for too long, Jim Cornette was gone. I mean, you
can't do that.
You can't do that. That was probably something that you could get away with 30 years ago, but
I mean, well, he's just sitting at home right now, counting his money that he's getting from his podcast and
eating Wendy's.
Eating Wendy's, a lot of triple cheeseburger, triple cheese, double onion. Okay, I'm doing my best imitation of Bruce Pritchard imitating Jim Cornette. So, but anyway, I haven't even really listened to it. The only other podcast I've, as far as like all the Conrads that I've been listening to, honestly, is Arn's.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because and it's not they're getting stale. I mean, it's just
there's so many.
There's so many of them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to the original topic, talking about Road Dogg Jesse James and him now taking over as the vice president of the live events. And you're talking about Shawn Michaels also taking over vice president of the what was it? Not talent relations, but
talent development.
Talent development.
Yep.
I can see that. Well, I'll get to think. Well, Shawn Michaels had a wrestling school, and he had one student.
Yeah.
That one student was Brian Danielson.
Yeah.
But he only had one student.
It's like the one student ended up being like the best wrestler in the world. But
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's why he's in NXT though, because he is training them in NXT.
yeah,
At least he's helping them.
yeah.
And I really wish he hadn't shaved his head because that's not a good look for him.
No, it's not. But I mean, I give him credit. He went ahead and shaved it because Mother Nature was taking that real
It
quick.
was the hairline started cruising. You might as
Yeah.
well just take it
I
away.
mean, some of his last few matches, like before he retired, like especially when he started sweating, you could really see, especially if his head was down, you could really see where the hair was either gone or getting really thin. So,
He started getting like the flesh colored yarmulke back there.
yep, yep, yep.
Yep. Yeah. And I think he'll do good at that just because we saw how good. Well, we know there for a little bit. Everybody was saying NXT is actually better than Raw or SmackDown.
Oh yeah, there for a while, especially like I'd say probably 2016 to 20 late 2018. Yeah, it was the best thing, that WWE was putting out.
And every time they had the dual pay per views where they would have NXT on the Friday or Saturday night, and then WWE,
Yeah, they'd
over
have.
the weekend.
Yep,
And
they'd have.
they only did that as part of like the Big Four.
Yeah, yeah, but the NXT takeover shows always stole the weekend.
Yeah,
Like it was always better than
I
whatever
was
the
like,
main roster
I
pay
was
per
like,
view was.
they just raised that bar pretty high,
Yeah,
y'all.
they raised that bar, and then you would think the main roster would be. You think not the talent on the main roster, but you would think the people producing that product would be like, okay, our quote unquote developmental has raised the bar this high. We have got to match that. We can't have the developmental looking better than the main roster. But they
Right.
didn't even try.
Yeah, they didn't step up their game. They told NXT to calm down. It's like
Yeah, exactly. They told NXT to dial it back. And it's like, that's no,
that's
no,
not how
no,
you
no,
do things.
no.
If you want, and this is not just wrestling, just in general, if you want things to just keep steadily improving, you're getting better and better
Mhm.
all the time, you don't tell one of them, okay, stop,
Yeah.
because no, it's you use that as inspiration to up your own game.
My daughter had that issue in school when she was younger, to where she was, she was gifted and talented, still is. Um, and she would be done with her schoolwork before anybody else in the class. And I kept telling them, encourage that.
Hmm.
Give her more to do because she's capable of doing more. Instead, they were just like, well, I need you to sit here quietly and let the rest of the class catch up to you. And it's like, no, no.
And they wonder why sometimes kids start getting in trouble in school and they start not wanting to go to school because they get bored.
They get bored. That's why we took her out of school and started homeschooling her, and she's been able to skip 2 grades. So because and it's still that girl, it's still hard to challenge her, even as much as we try. It's just she's one of those people. It's just it comes easy.
But anyway, before we start getting into other tangents, so um, but yeah, NXT, the first takeover that I remember watching was, I want to say they were in San Antonio, could be wrong, but, or maybe even Houston. It was the one Shinsuke was the champion. He was dropping the belt to Bobby Roode.
Yes, yes,
And their entrances,
yes.
I was like, holy crap, who are these two guys? And their entrances, why can't they get these kind of entrances on
Hmm.
the main roster, for anybody in the main roster? And then Shinsuke actually got hurt during that match
Yeah,
because he was getting ready to move up to the main roster, but unfortunately he got hurt.
yeah,
And so they had to delay that by however many months until he was cleared to come back.
yeah. I think it was something with his orbital bone or something. I think it was an eye injury or
Yes,
something.
I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
because he did drop the belt to
Hmm.
Bobby Roode,
Yeah.
And then Bobby Roode actually, I want to say they came up to the main roster right about the same time because
Yeah, because Bobby Roode came up to the main roster after he dropped it to Drew McIntyre. Uh, yeah. And then about that time, Shinsuke was clear. And yeah, they came up like pretty close to each other.
right, and I just remember the interest of Shinsuke with the violin,
Hmm.
okay, I'll just stop now before I hurt people, before I hurt their ears anymore. But I want to say he was on. It wasn't a surfboard, but it was something kind of similar, a platform, a moving platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Bobby Roode came in with his glorious.
Yeah. And he was on the spinning thing, kind of like
Yeah,
Bobby Lashley stands on now, and it turned him around. And yeah.
he
And they
just
had it had the choir. They had the choir off to
yes.
the side. Yeah. Yeah.
And
The
I'm like,
takeovers were great. I wish they hadn't have gotten rid of those. Uh, but that was another thing they scrapped when it went to NXT 2.0.
well, I think one of the things oddly, honestly, that hurt NXT, not just when they went from black and gold to rainbow tie dye.
The Technicolor.
Yeah, the whatever the 1984 early MTV looking things.
Yeah.
Now, granted, MTV was playing music then, but
Yeah.
anyway, not right now. I don't know what the crap is on there right now, but it ain't music.
It's just
Uh,
garbage.
it's just garbage. Y'all don't get it. Headbangers Ball.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Headbangers Ball and Yo MTV
Yo
Raps.
MTV Raps. Yes, dude, they came on and Hard 30 and Hard 60 because Yo MTV Raps, and then it was
Hmm.
Hard 30 back to back. Yes,
Yep.
we used to watch them. Yeah, bring them back anyway. But NXT, if they could bring back the takeovers, they could bring back this kind of entrances. I mean, because it was those two entrances alone were just absolutely fantastic. It made me want to see them more and bring them up to the main
Hmm.
roster. And yeah, Shinsuke was tearing it up when he first came to the main roster. Boom, won the Royal
Yeah.
Rumble. Had the title shot at WrestleMania, and then he just from there.
Yeah. And they had him win the Rumble. They should have had him beat AJ for the title at WrestleMania. They
Yeah,
had him turn heel, and then had like three more matches with him and AJ, and it either ended on a DQ or AJ won. So it's like you take like the hottest thing you've got in your company, and then you just like, but no, we're not going to pull the trigger on him. We're just going to
no,
keep having him lose. But we were saying we were talking about AEW, I think, before the show started. Um,
yes,
and Kenny Omega is back. He
yes.
was the mystery partner. They there
Uh,
was anybody else it was going to be. If it wasn't going to be Hangman Page, it was going to be Kenny Omega that was going to be the Young Bucks partner in the trios tournament.
right.
And Kenny Omega has played. He has done this. He told a story with his body on Dynamite. Everything he did, he made it look like that he was really winded and still recovering from injury and everything. And that's just great storytelling because it's like, he knows that everybody has heard the laundry list of injuries that he had when he left. So to play that up and been like, because he could have just hopped in there and looked like New Japan Pro Wrestling Kenny Omega when he was tearing it up over there. But he started off slow, selling the lingering injuries and, selling the maybe his cardio's not up to snuff yet and everything. But by the time they get to the finals, because Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are going to the finals of that tournament. I don't know who's going to be on the other side, but I can't imagine that the Bucks and Kenny Omega are not going to the finals of the trios tag tournaments. But I bet by the time those finals get here, we'll get main event Kenny Omega again. He'll tell that story of him getting back to form. But that's that's good. I'm glad they did bring out they did start the trios titles because they have a lot of 3-man groups that they could do that with. Um, like I said, I still don't know where they're going with Mox and Punk having the unification match on free TV instead of the pay-per-view.
which is really,
It's really weird
yeah,
considering here's the thing, All Out is September 4th. We're like 2 weeks away from All Out.
yeah. That's what, the day before Labor Day, right?
Yeah, so why are you giving away the world title unification match on TV 2 weeks before the pay-per-view?
When's Clash at the Castle?
Clash of the Castle is
I think it's the same
the
weekend
I think it's the third.
on the Saturday.
Yeah, because it's going to be on Saturday.
Yeah, because
And
I meant to ask you, how are they doing this because of the 5 hour time difference? Are they
I can't remember when I don't know when it's supposed to start. Let me look. Let's see. Yeah, it'll take place on Saturday, September 3rd. And then All Out is Sunday, September 4th.
well, have they announced? Okay, how are they going to do this? Because are they going to have it at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon our time, or my time, 1 o'clock in the afternoon your time?
I don't
Well,
know.
well,
Let's see if I
because
can find what the start time is. It will be 1 o'clock your time, 12 o'clock mine.
okay,
Yeah.
so that's going to be a wrestling filled weekend, and that'll be like right after my wife has her surgery. So, and that's going to be a long weekend on top of that because it's Labor Day weekend,
Yep.
and so there you go. Wow. Uh, so you have Clash at the Castle, and then you have um. Okay, I'm stupid. What's AEW's
All Out.
All Out? I was thinking All
Yeah.
Way Out, but I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. Um,
And the Clash at the Castle card looks really good. You've got Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler for the SmackDown Women's title. You've got a 6-woman tag match. You've got Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky versus Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka, which will be a good match. I still don't like the fact that the Raw Women's title is not being defended,
I know,
but
yeah, that is making sense to me.
I think they're leading up to the feud between Bianca and Bayley because I think that's where that's
Okay,
going. Because I think because you've got Io and Dakota as a tag team, and I
right.
think Bayley is going to go after the singles women's title. You've got, I'm sure Bobby Lashley will be on the show. You've got Roman and Drew for the world title. You've got, for the first time since WrestleMania 37, the Intercontinental title will be defended.
That's another Triple H change.
Yes,
A very good change.
which is Walter defending against Sheamus. I'm usually not a fan of Sheamus being anywhere near a championship picture, but this is going to be a fight
Yes.
because Sheamus is stiff, and so is Walter, and
Hmm.
neither one of them have a problem taking a hit or giving one. I think that might be the sleeper match of the night.
It very well could be because Sheamus is not a bad hand in the ring.
No, he is not a bad hand,
So,
and Walter is fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, All Out is going to have right now. I think they're going with Eddie Kingston versus Sammy Guevara. The finals of the trios tournament. I think they're going to end up doing Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa again because Tony Storm is the number one contender. She's the number one ranked woman in AEW because Chris Statlander had to have knee surgery.
but say, yeah, she's hurt. So,
She's hurt and she's going to be out about 8 months, which sucks because she was about to be.
yeah,
They said she was about to be. She was in line. She was about to get a really big push right before she got injured. I think she was going to be the next challenger for Thunder Rosa and possibly beat Thunder Rosa and win the title. So that sucks. But I think we'll get Tony Storm versus Thunder Rosa again.
Thunderstorm.
Yeah, but I don't know. They haven't really said what else is going to be on All Out yet. But I figure probably this coming Wednesday they'll probably have some more matches announced.
And that one, from what I understand, is also going to be in Chicago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think they're trying to push Punk as a heel.
I think
Even
they need
though,
to.
yeah, because dude's irritating people.
Here's the thing: he's irritating people, and CM Punk. I mean, he does fine as a face, but he's always better. He's always been better as a heel. I've always liked him better as a heel, and I think that's where they're headed to because every feud that he's been in AEW, it's like the other guy's like, well, you're a piece of crap. Nobody really wants you here. You know, he had it with MJF. He had it with Eddie Kingston. You know, he's having it with Moxley. Moxley even said, he's like, the only reason you're in AEW is because you ran out of money.
Yeah. I just sent you a text, by the way.
Okay. And but yeah, I think that they're turning him heel. I think it's going to be slow going, but
And I think he's becoming, that disgruntled employee.
yeah.
And like I said, after a while, you guys said, look at it like Taylor Swift. Maybe it's you. And
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah.
like after a while, it's like you've got to look. If you have issues everywhere you go, after a while, it's like it's got to be you.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at all the people he's had like real issues with.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Vince, being petty, fired him on his wedding day.
Yeah.
Of course, Punk walked out. Even Steve Austin got on his podcast and said, Punk, don't walk. He said, that was the worst mistake I ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do. And, he just went and big fat did it anyway.
Yep.
And, so Vince fired him on his wedding day.
Yeah.
And then he had the promo or the podcast on Colt Cabanas, which Colt Cabana also has a pretty decent show, by the way. I don't know if you've ever listened to it, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
I mean, he does a pretty good job. But that was the one that really, I mean, I was already listening to Colt Cabana before that. That was the one that really got him even more exposure.
Yeah.
And then they got sued because of some of the comments he was making.
Yeah.
Because you can't say, well, I think that no, he was flat out saying, oh yeah, I had this big old staph infection on my back and they didn't do anything about it and blah blah blah. It's like you can't just go make accusations like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And he made them directly to the staff doctor at WWE, and the doctor's like, oh no.
no. And of course got sued. I mean, they had a lawsuit,
Mm-hmm.
and Punk was supposed to pay for Colt Cabana's legal bills. And apparently, he never did.
And apparently, he didn't do it. Yeah. Apparently, he backed out on it, which caused their falling out.
Yep.
Found out something else too, which this is on Tony Khan. As much as I like AEW, I don't agree with him doing this because Punk was coming in at the same time Colt Cabana's contract was coming up, and Tony Khan wasn't going to renew it. I think because there was that friction
right.
with Colt Cabana and CM Punk, but the majority of the locker room went to bat for Colt Cabana, so Tony Khan re-signed him and basically signed him to Ring of Honor.
I mean, now,
which he did become a big name in Ring of Honor, so I mean that makes sense. But it's like you can't just CM Punk's coming in, so let me move this guy that he has an issue with over here, because if you move everybody that CM Punk has ever had an issue with, you're not going to have a wrestling company.
Exactly.
You're going to have the fans, the ring, and CM Punk, because he has an issue with everybody eventually.
Yeah, and he loves to just run people's names through the mud. And the stuff that he said about Ryback. Now, granted, I do know Ryback is a very polarizing character
Hmm.
because some of the stuff it's pretty bad when he puts out a survey. What should I do with my career? And like everybody said, you need to retire
Yeah.
because I mean he's earned a reputation for hurting people in the ring,
Yes. I was going to
and
say that with CM Punk talking about that, like that, I'm more inclined to believe Punk because other people have also said that
right,
that Ryback was not safe in the ring to work with.
right. The other people though didn't get on his podcast and say, "Well, I was talking to Rhino and or Ryback and said, well, it was an accident, or you just a dumb." And he said, "Well, I
Yeah.
guess I'm just a dumb." I'm like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be calling myself that.
I mean, there's a way to handle things and a way not to. It's just, again, I feel like it's ego driven and it's Punk thinking that he's bigger than the
Yes,
business.
and I don't know when he came back last year. I'm like, okay, definitely going to bring in some. He's going to bring in ratings. He's going to bring in the audience.
Yeah. I
How
mean, I
long is he
thought it,
going
yeah, I
to?
thought it was cool that he came back. I like CM Punk as
Bought
far
everybody
as,
ice cream.
yes, yeah, as far as wrestling goes and, great promo and all that. But just, you just can't be the disgruntled employee at any job, not just wrestling.
Right.
I mean, any sport, any job, you can't be the disgruntled employee and think everything's supposed to go your way. I don't care how famous you are, I don't care how big of a star you are in wrestling. No one is bigger than the entire business.
Right. That
Not
and that
even not even Hogan
not
was
even The
bigger.
Rock.
Yeah, not even Hogan or The Rock or Steve Austin was bigger than the entire sport of pro wrestling.
And Punk thinks he is, and he's got legitimate heat with people again.
And Punk's thing is too, everybody's supposed to have a bit of an ego in wrestling. If you're not in it, if you don't think you're the best, nobody else is going to. And I'm fine with that. But I feel like Punk thinks his face should be on the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. And it's like, no, you're good, but not that good.
And now he, of course, clashed with Vince McMahon.
Hmm.
He
Clash with
also
Triple H,
with Triple H. Who
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Okay, I figured him and Stephanie probably had some kind of grievances. Don't know about him and Shawn Michaels, but I'm pretty sure because Punk, he's been a little outspoken about being like anti-religious, and Shawn Michaels, everybody knows his
Hmm.
story, so that might be a conflict. But
No.
I also know Shawn Michaels has also been able to be professional about it,
Yeah.
and Punk, I can't see him not be when it comes to that.
Plus,
Um,
Punk can be a little holier than thou at times about being straight edge.
yes, oh, absolutely,
And, there's a lot of guys in the business that are, recovered
not straight
alcoholics or
edge. Yeah,
recovered addicts or whatever. And it's like, it's fine if you're playing that up as an aspect of your character, but I feel like he's like that regardless. I feel like he's just a little,
yeah,
you know, a little too. There's nothing wrong with being proud of being sober. I'm very proud of being sober, but I also don't try to throw it in anybody else's face. And you're
right,
grown. You do
exactly.
what you do, and that's your business. It's just not for me. But I feel like Punk tries to throw it, throw his sobriety in other people's face to
And
make the other person feel bad about not being able to be sober.
that's where him and Jeff Hardy had the conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
And the list just kind of goes on and on, which means CM Punk came back after 7 years. WWE wasn't going to take him. He probably
Oh no,
didn't.
no.
Yeah, he didn't want to go to Impact because that wouldn't be it. Well, just to be kind of a play on words, it wouldn't have as much of an impact if he
Well,
went
no,
to.
because Impact is I mean, it's excellent wrestling. If you don't
Yes.
watch Impact, you should watch it. It's excellent wrestling. It's just a much smaller scale.
Hmm.
To me, it's like what Ring of Honor was. It's that smaller,
Hmm.
more intimate type setting. But excellent wrestling regardless. But yeah, that would not been a big enough stage for Punk.
Yeah, and he could get the money. I mean,
Oh yeah,
uh,
they'd have paid the money for it, but he wouldn't have got the exposure that his ego needed.
and he's trying to stick it to McMahon. Of course, here's the funny thing: McMahon's gone now.
Yeah,
Triple H is the man in charge. So what's he going to try to stick it to Triple H?
yeah,
Triple H will stick it right back to him. Like,
exactly. And it's like just go and do your job. And here's the thing too: it's like you come into the company talking about, I want to work with all this young talent and help, help get these guys to the next level. But then you win every feud that you're in, and then you know you win the world title, which personally I didn't think that was necessary for him to beat Hangman
I thought it was
and,
too early.
and win the title. Yeah. And then you break your foot, and then you're gone. John Moxley wins the interim title and put that company on his back,
Mm-hmm.
and has been fantastic week in and week out. And I feel like that some of that heat that Punk was generating in his promo about Moxley on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, I feel like some of that was legit, because I think Punk was like, "Well, I'm the world champion, but they're talking about this guy." Because, and it's like, I know he got injured, but it's like this guy's done the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's been there. Putting the company on his back while you were out injured, and John Moxley has been there. You know, not from the very beginning, but pretty close. Has been in AEW the majority of the time it's been in existence. And for Punk to walk in 8 months' time, win every feud he's involved in, and win the world title,
And
just
well, not only that, but actually, it was just this week. I think he hit his 1 year mark in AEW,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I only know that because of my Facebook memories.
yeah,
Because one of them, I think you, no, I tagged you. I think I tagged you and Kyle in it. It said Punk is all elite.
yeah,
That thing.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. He just hit his year, and he's already won the world title. It was one of those things. Punk didn't need the world title to be a big star in AEW. I mean, he was already a big star,
right,
regardless. He didn't need the world title. I think they took it off Hangman too early.
I agree, and also Omega, Kenny Omega, he got injured what in October, November,
Mm-hmm.
and so there really was not a whole lot of time where they were both in the company at the same time. And now Omega, of
Right.
course, is back,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny because that was the original thing we started talking about.
Yeah.
But
We
uh,
always circle back, people.
we
We
do.
always get back
We
to
always circle back. We will get back to it eventually.
it.
Um, but yeah, now that Omega's back, and we know Omega was huge. He was
Oh
the
yeah.
biggest name in wrestling.
Yeah.
How many times has he been the number one ranked wrestler on PWI's top 500?
I think from like 2016 to when he left to go to AEW. I mean, seriously, it's like it was him. Like he had match of the year with Okada like 2 or 3 years in a row. Um, yeah, it was voted number one in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Top
Mm-hmm.
500, and he's the number one ranked wrestler in the world. I mean, at the time when he was AEW World Champion, he was AEW World Champion, Impact World Champion, and the AAA World Champion.
Yes.
And he's putting on, and I mean, the guy's got vertigo. The guy's got issues with his knees. The guy had issues with his back. I think he had some nerve issues, and he's still putting on match of the year candidates.
Yes. And so that's somebody else that Punk may have to go, you know what? If they're around, you're not going to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
You are not going to be the smartest person in the room as long as they're in the room with you.
Well, no, and they've got talent that they're building.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're building Jungle Boy as a
Mm-hmm.
singles talent. Ricky Starks has turned face, and they're building him as a singles talent. You've got you still got MJF in the wings. You've got Darby Allin. Uh, you've got, and then like more established talent. You've got Miro, Malachi Black, and then you've got, who else you've got? There was somebody else I was thinking of. Um, but you've got all these guys. You've got a good mix of the young guys getting a good push, and the established guys building, building their legacy. So they're only going to cater to Punk for so long, especially with all this locker room turmoil that I've been reading, that a lot of it is stemming from him. They're only going to put up with that for so long before, especially with Triple H in charge of WWE, when it comes contract time, people are going to be like, do I stay here and deal with all this, or do I go over there? Do I go over there?
Right. And by the way, Kenny Omega was number one last year. The year before that, it was John Moxley.
That's right. Mox did win it. That's right.
Yes.
Mox did win it last year. Yeah.
Year before that was Rollins, but the year before that was Kenny Omega.
Mm-hmm.
So Kenny Omega twice has been number one in the PWI 500. CM Punk was it in 2012, which makes sense because 2012, I mean, he was lighting it up. It was 2014 where he took his ball and went home, and they said, okay, we have another ball.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. A lot of these guys need to realize, like you said, there's always another ball. They've always got, you're not the only, if you were the only person that they, could push, they wouldn't be a very good wrestling company.
Right.
There's always somebody else that can take your spot. I mean, AEW has proved that when they had the rash of injuries and were able to just kind of pivot and focus on other people and not miss a beat. I mean, CM Punk's not the only main event talent in that company.
Exactly. And even though he thinks he is, I mean, because Eddie Kingston is definitely on the rise.
Yes, exactly. I would love to see Eddie Kingston win the world title.
Yep. Well, like you said before, even if it is just for a short time.
Yeah, even if it's a short time, the fact that it would validate his entire career. I mean, and it would validate him personally because he's been very open about his mental health issues, and his wrestling has always been his wrestling promo skills. He is on my short list of like some of the realest people in wrestling. You believe everything that comes out of his mouth.
Yes, and apparently he actually has some legitimate heat with Jericho.
Yes, he said he didn't like the matches with Jericho. He said they were difficult to get through. I don't know if it's Jericho's style or planning or what, because Eddie's a fighter, and he's just like, give me the story and let me go in the ring and tell it.
Oh, so I don't know. I think we've said this before. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan right now because we see all the positive changes that are happening in WWE.
I got your text.
Yeah, finally I looked down and it said it failed to send, so I tried to send it again.
Yeah, I got it. That's great. That's very good.
I sent a meme combining. It was a Batman meme, and I have a rule: if I get a Batman meme, I'm going to send it to Joylan. I don't care what it is.
Because I am a massive Batman fan.
He is a massive Batman fan, and I think that's because you never see them in the same place. Hey. But you also don't see him and Robin in the same place either. Hey, but
that is true.
That is true.
But I'd go with Nightwing over.
There you go. Oh, I agree with that. But but it also doesn't also had something about CM Punk. I actually got it, found it the other day. I meant to send it to you then. And talk about like, oh yeah, hold on, before I forget again. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh, a good time to be a wrestling fan because the positive stuff happening in the WWE. I mean, we know. I don't think it could have gotten much worse because they were like on their way.
They were scraping bottom of the barrel at that point.
Yeah, because I think we even asked on one of our shows, are they on the verge of collapse? Because even the most loyal fans were not watching the shows. They were, I was to the point I was only watching the DVRs. Well, right now I watch the DVRs anyway, but it's because of our recording schedule.
Right.
But sometimes even then I was like, I don't even know if I want to sit through the DVR because I know the first 25 minutes of it's going to be a promo. It's going
Yep.
to be a skit, and then they're going to talk about the match. They're going to start talking about the match we're going to have at the end of the show, and then every 15 minutes they're going to remind us, oh, by the way, that at the end of the show we're going to have, oh, but here was the video at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And we might eventually get to wrestling, and even SmackDown. And I said the one time I was texting you going, I'm watching the show. I'm watching SmackDown live right now, and because I was watching on a little bit of a delay, so I
Hmm.
was having to fast forward so I could see how long the minutes were. When you fast forward,
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, I was like, I don't even think they had 20 minutes of wrestling in this entire show, and it turns out they didn't. They had 19 minutes total of
Hmm.
wrestling on a show that is 120 minutes long
Yeah.
on a wrestling show. And then it was not long after that, all of a sudden everything with Vince went down, and well, he's gone, and all of a sudden Triple H come in there, and now all of a sudden it's starting to
Yeah. And
comes up.
there's wrestling on there. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we got Bobby Lashley versus AJ Styles, first
Hmm.
time ever. We got
I
that.
haven't watched that, but I mean,
Excellent match.
okay,
Excellent match. Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. Excellent match.
yeah. No, that one I have seen. Well, most of it anyway.
SmackDown from this past Friday, there was a fatal five-way to determine the number one contender for Walter's Intercontinental title. It was Sheamus, Corbin, Moss, Ricochet, and Sami Zayn. Excellent match. They got time to really work, and Lord, they were in Montreal, and Sami Zayn was so over.
Yeah.
I mean, he came out, and that pop was massive, and
Sami Zayn. I mean, he's a
he is excellent in the ring. He always
yeah.
has been, and but they're getting time. I mean, last week you had Walter versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title. They're getting
Hmm.
they're getting back to wrestling. They're also putting more emphasis on their mid card titles, which should have been done a long time ago.
It's a crime that they by the time it'll be the Intercontinental titles defended at Clash in the Castle, it'll be what, a year and a half, 2.5 years.
Hmm. Yeah, the last time it was defended, it was Big E defending against Apollo.
Apollo.
Yep,
That was at 37.
yep. The
So
night.
yeah, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
mean,
It's the last time that the Intercontinental title has been on pay per view, defended on pay per view.
and that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Especially with some of the other matches they've had on the pay-per-views.
Yeah, and especially with the history of the Intercontinental title, and like
Yes.
they've been emphasizing that that's the workhorse title. That is the title that the mid card guys, you know, hone their craft with to move up to the main event.
Hmm.
And I mean, that's how it should be. That's what the U.S. title was, especially in the NWA and WCW. That's what the U.S. title was. For WWE, that's what the Intercontinental title was. Those titles are important and shouldn't be, forgotten.
Exactly. And so you have all that going on in WWE, all good stuff. AEW, of course, we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff happening there. Some of it's kind of backstage drama because MJF, there's still something going on with him. We don't know if it's a work or a shoot.
Yeah.
But from all appearances, it feels like it's a shoot.
Yeah.
But yes, so not only that, but you also have Ring of Honor, I mean, which is a little bit of a next tier down. I mean,
Yeah.
I know, yeah, they're own, but it's still giving guys a chance to feed their
Yes.
families
Yep.
and a good
Exactly.
chance. I mean,
Yeah.
Impact is still going strong. The Indies are still going strong. The Northern Wrestling Federation, who we support them a lot because we've had
Yes.
a lot of good
Mm-hmm.
folks on our show. They just had their big event of the year, the Summer Sizzler, this past Saturday down in Covington. I was not able to go because I was not originally planning on going because
Mm-hmm.
I had the class,
And then they canceled on you,
and
and
then they
then
canceled on me. I was like, I was even telling my wife, I was like, then I got to look at like, well, we have no money. So
It's like, so I can't quite go to the Sizzler.
yeah, I can't, justify spending. It'll cost me to get down from my house to Covington. Um, let's see, about $10 in gas
Mm-hmm.
round trip.
Yeah.
Because that's how much gas is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it'll be about $10 in gas round trip, plus having to pay for the ticket because I didn't already have it bought beforehand.
Right.
So and I think the ticket was like about $20.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you're going to buy. I was going to buy probably some kind of merch, and then
Oh yeah.
you're going to get a drink. You're going to get like some M&Ms or
Yeah.
whatever. And it was going to be. I was going to have a good time, but the problem is it is the money situation. Because I mean, I'll be honest, we're
Mm-hmm.
after moving my daughter down to Orlando, and we has a lot of other things, and we're still playing a lot of catch up.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's been in that situation. So it's like, well, crud,
Mm-hmm.
because we already had, because I wasn't planning on going to it anyway. We already had money earmarked
For
for other
something
stuff.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's called doing a budget.
Yep.
So, and you got to stick with the budget.
Yeah.
I hate that I missed it because from everything that I've read and everything that I've heard and saw on video, it was a great show.
Yeah, everything I've seen on Twitter and Facebook, yeah, it looks like it was great. Congratulations to Noah
Hmm.
Gabriel, who's been a guest several times on the show. He's one half of the new Northern Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions.
Yep, along
It-
with the Prodigy, Kobe Kane.
yep. Congratulations to Star Rider, won the NWF Heavyweight Championship.
I would love to try to get him on the show. I don't know how to all work out because I mean he is under mask,
Yeah,
and because we are on YouTube, so uh,
yeah, yeah,
so I mean I'll have to hit him up and just really just find out, okay, how would that work with us having him on the show?
yeah.
Um, because we've never had. He's actually a nice guy. Well, I know you've never talked to him, but it's kind of hard, But yeah, he is a pretty nice guy and well deserving. He's been waiting 6 years for this,
Mm.
and he finally got it. And the tag team scramble, King Titan, who we've had on the show,
Yes,
and
yes,
Sean Evans, they are the
yeah,
ones now. They're the number one contenders
yeah.
for the tag
Because
titles.
I saw Titan post something on Twitter because Noah had posted something and then Titan had responded to it.
Yep. Um, and another good friend of the show, Sinclair Octavius
Mhm.
Bentley, is now the number one contender for the tri-state title.
I hadn't seen. I was looking for those results, and I'm awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, because he won the scramble. Now he may have held Nasty Russ's tights
Hey,
to the point where his entire rear end was hanging out.
got to do what you got
So
to do.
yep. So
Championship on the line. You got to do what
championship.
you got to
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no, come on. I mean, and
do.
Sinclair. I mean, I don't want to say we support everything Sinclair does, but we support a lot of things Sinclair does.
Yes, yeah,
It's just
yeah.
just because we just think he's that great of a guy.
Oh
Even if
yeah.
we don't agree with what he does, we still go, all right, he's
It's
got it.
Sinclair, so
It's
I'm gonna
Sinclair.
let it slide.
Uh, Ella successfully defended the NWF Women's title against Big Mama.
Yep,
She didn't lose the title, but she did lose half her tooth.
she did. Honestly, I was hoping Big Mama was going to win that. I mean, they told from the video clip that I saw on Twitter, um, they were telling an excellent story, and I was hoping Big Mama would win it. I'm hoping she gets another shot at the title.
Yep, and I think she will. Ella got her apparently she got her voice back because if you saw the Bustin' Loose video, yeah, that
Yeah,
scream, I was like, yeah, she's
yeah,
back.
yeah.
And I don't know what happened to cause her to lose half her tooth because she
I
actually
don't,
posted
I
that.
don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She found her tooth, unlike Chris Demise when he lost his last year,
Hmm.
in Ludlow. I was there for that one. I actually helped him look for his tooth, and he could not find it. But and also with the tag team, now former tag team champions, Joshua and then Andrew Reed,
Hmm.
they have split. Andrew Reed is now a face,
Okay.
and
Okay.
Nikki Victory, I guess, is accompanying him because Andrew Reed got tired of the abuse that Joshua was laying on to Nikki Victory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so now they're split as a team. Nikki Victory is no longer under the servitude of Joshua.
That's right. That's right.
So, by the way, speaking of Nikki Victory, and like I said, it came on at 7 o'clock tonight, but it's not like it was live. I mean, it's on YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
You watch AW Dark. Nikki Victories was on there. So,
Yep. She'll be wrestling Anna Jay of the Jericho Appreciation Society.
oh, and there you go. So, but I believe that's all we have for this week or
Yeah,
today. Anyway,
I think that's it.
Thursday we are supposed to have former co-host Kyle. He's supposed to be rejoining us for an episode. We are going to be talking about the great Arn Anderson, Double A,
Yes.
the Enforcer. So, looking forward to that. So everybody, stay tuned for that. And of course, once we get that, I'll upload it. It should be available Thursday night. It'll be on YouTube Friday morning, just like today's episode will be available Monday evening. It'll be available on YouTube Tuesday morning or Tuesday. Sometimes just kind of depends on when I can actually get the upload going, because that part takes a while.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything else. You have anything else?
No, that's good.
All right, cool. So until Thursday, God bless.
God bless.